Aloha mai kako, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Moana Nui podcast. I am Moana, your host, and I am also the writer for The Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea and the editor for the Wildcard Chronicles comic book series. Tonight, I am joined by my friend Danny.
Hello, everyone. I am Dana with Danique Events, and I am a photographer and event planner. And we look forward to you learning more about our upcoming guests that will be coming on shortly.
Awesome. Yes, so we are really excited to have Alan Zhu with us tonight. Alan is a triple threat within the entertainment industry, and he is carving his own lane as a versatile artist that raps and sings to bridge the gap between hip hop and R&B, but also more diversity within the music and acting industry. With his music, Alan intricately weaves pop, R&B, and hip hop aggression into a tapestry that defines stereotypes and labels. Alanʻs is planning to contribute his platform to bring attention to social issues, bring diversity to the entertainment industry, and support other upcoming Asian and Pacific Islander artists. So shout out to Alan for the AAP I love, and we are so excited to have him on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Welcome and thank you for your time. We know time is precious, and we really appreciate you being on with us tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Alan, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Where'd you grow up, and how did you find yourself in music?
Yeah. So I'm a rapper, singer, actor based in Atlanta, Georgia. I kind of grew up like everywhere, like around the world. I was born in China. I moved to England when I was 4, Singapore when I was 5, and I moved to the States when I was 6. So I would say like my stomping grounds as a kid is like between Maryland and Seattle. And then I would say like my musical stomping grounds would be Atlanta because I think that's where I kind of found myself as an artist in my late teens when I moved there. So being kind of like nomadic, it taught me a lot about people, just being like in different neighborhoods and like I guess seeing the differences in just how people interact, how they think. That definitely helped broaden my horizons a lot, and it definitely helps my music too to be able to relate to, you know, more people.
Very nice. Well, Alan, in your song Discriminate, you mentioned that part of your childhood that you spent in Tacoma Park, shout out to Maryland, and how you were one of the only Asian kids in the neighborhood. And
Mhm.
you also talked about how you were bullied and all with being one of the few Asians in a majority white school in Washington State.
Right.
How did that change you as you grew up, and how did you use it in your music and career to evolve you basically like a phoenix?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really understand what I was facing as a kid. It was just because it was so rampant, right? But I think it definitely became a part of my identity as far as finding out why so much discrimination happens to the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. You know what I mean? Because we're so like misunderstood and and normal like racism towards us is so normalized. Like people don't even care. They just it happens and they're just like because it doesn't fit into the black and white narrative, most people don't even
Mm,
consider it as like an issue. So um, being like the only Asian kid in like a black and Latino neighborhood, obviously, even though we're all minorities, I don't look like them. So it's like I'm just, it's just like fair play, and of course, like at that time, being Chinese just meant the slanty eyes and just the ching chong, and it was like the Bruce Lee and whatever. I was like, I don't even know who Bruce Lee was, but it's like now I want to look him up, and like it it made me very like just I don't know, very angry as a kid, and so even when I moved to Washington State and it was now it's a majority like white space, like it was the same thing because it was like because I found hip hop in Maryland and I took that with me because that was like the one thing that like I liked about Maryland was being around these black kids, like this is what they introduced to me. Now it's a problem because I'm the Asian kid that likes hip hop and they're just like, and then I hang out with the black kids and they're just like, who do you think you are?
yeah.
It's like you don't belong, and I'm like, okay, great, another place I don't belong. So and then it's like I didn't really fit in with Asian kids, so I'm just like, all right. So I'm just not welcome anywhere. But so I definitely found a lot of solace in my music. I was very introverted, wrote a lot, and finally when I went to college, that's where I kind of like found a base as far as like people that supported me, and I just kept building from there.
No, that I find that really relatable because I actually live in Maryland. I'm originally from Hawaii, and it was very similar for me too. You know, like they were like, "Oh, that's the Asian chick," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Asian, but I'm also Native Hawaiian. I have all these other things." But just like you said, like you don't fit in either group here. It's like black,
Hmm.
white. And, I mean, you see Hispanics and stuff, but the main thread is really, the black and white relations. So
Right.
um, I found a very similar challenges, and still now, still now. But I'm up for the challenge.
Right. Right.
um, so kind of along that line, in No Handouts, you talked about not really fitting anywhere and how you had to become a standout. Tell us a little bit about that. What does being a standout mean to you, and how have you uniquely positioned yourself as an artist and a musician?
Sorry, I'm just messing with the thing because I don't like how my face looks. So I'm like I have like this HD camera I'm testing out. My bad. I know I shouldn't have been doing this midway, but I'm just like, why does my face look so fat? But anyways, so um, could you repeat the question? I was really just like, why does my face look so fat? But
It's
continue.
okay. So along the lines of what we were talking about previously, in No Handouts, you talked about not fitting in anywhere and how you had to become a standout. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What does being a standout mean to you? And how have you uniquely positioned yourself as an artist and a musician?
I would say like it's much easier to conform and be like everyone else. And I think when you uh speak your truth and it doesn't resonate with like the people around you, it kind of can ostracize you. And I think that's a very scary thing for a lot of people, which is why a lot of people tend to just go with the flow, right? And just not really like like want to be themselves if it's a place that's very homogenous. That's something I experienced, but I think like even as an artist, it's like people have said, hey, I don't think you should rap, you should sing, or they'd be like, well, I don't think you should sing, you should rap. I don't think you should do this, you do that, because it's like if I do more than just the norm, it's considered abnormal, and it's harder for someone to digest. And for me, it's like I don't think I need to limit myself for your limitations. You know what I mean? I feel like I
Yeah.
want to just be who I am. And even with me acting, I'm sure there's people in the industry that are like, oh, I think you should just do music. I think you should leave me alone. Like, I think you should keep your opinions to yourself.
Exactly. Well, with your fan base being majority women, how have you continued to please your female fans musically, but also keep and attract male fans?
It's weird because I feel like I never seek out male fans. So when I do have male fans, it's pretty cool because it's like I know my target demographic is women because I feel like I have a very like pop sensible side to me where I know how to make like music that's gonna resonate with like just in a commercially accepting way. Even if I'm just going hard with bars or whatever, I always make sure the hook is catchy and I have like a pre-chorus that's gonna be like resonate. And I think like it's kind of like when you have like a when you're so like yourself, people can see that, and I don't think it's like becomes like a gender or marketing thing. I think people are attracted to people, and not in a sexual way, but just like not just like people are attracted to people that like can be themselves so authentically. So I think that's something I just strive for. Like it's not so much like, oh, I really want to pander to this crowd. It's more so like I just want to be myself, be as as me as possible, and then that's gonna get the people I want to listen to myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that message needs to be, um, reiterated. We just had another talk with another artist, and they very much emphasized the same theme. Being true to yourself and not being afraid to show that out to the world. So I'm glad that you're bringing that up also.
Right.
So with the pandemic, a lot of artists have had to like basically adapt or die with their career and their crafts. How have you adjusted yourself, both within your music and acting career, to stay connected to your fans and potential new ones?
It definitely put a stop to like film production stuff. Like I had to drop out of a couple roles, so that kind of was like put to like a hiatus. But it definitely made me strengthen like my virtual internet like game. In terms of like uh putting out content, like recording a lot of music, writing a lot of music, and being able to have like a much more consistent output. Like I think pre-pandemic, everything I was trying to do was just like, yo, I'm just trying to get on, I'm trying to get on. But now it's like I have to think to myself, it's like, what impact can I make with this content, with this video? What can I, what can this do? And it's much more like intentional. And I think it's I never thought of myself as someone who had a platform or whatever, because my mindset was more so just capitalistic. But when I started to actually like do stuff for the community or just in general for people that don't have a voice, people were like, "Oh, thank you for using your platform," and I'm like, I didn't, I'm just like, okay. And
What
then when you
platform?
start seeing that more, I'm like, okay, I see it. It's like, okay, people actually see that I have something. Like it's like I can address issues and people will listen. So I'm like, all right, I get it. It's like it comes with influence. So
Yeah.
um, it definitely changed my mindset. It's like, yo, there's a lot of things that um I'm very passionate about, which is a lot of times it's just like Asian American rights and like our voices being silenced, and that's something I refuse to like compromise for anyone. You know what I mean? And like it definitely helped people see like what I'm passionate about, and I think it made people want to support me more. Or some people, I think if they're turned off by it, it's like those weren't the people I wanted in my audience anyway. You know?
Yes.
And it's great that you actually mentioned that because that goes right into my next question for you. That a lot of your think pieces that you have released, you bring attention to those issues in the world, like racism, supporting Black and Asian communities, the model minority myth, COVID, and more. How were you able to break the corporate music mode to be able to have your own voice in your music?
Honestly, it's like being so frustrated with just like that system of the traditional music industry. Like it's like, yeah, I can always tap into the mode of, hey, let's write a song that's gonna be catchy. But it's like I feel like in this era, it's like there's stuff that can resonate with people that wouldn't be able to resonate before. Like before, like maybe like a decade ago, if you did conscious stuff, you were considered corny. Like people didn't want to
Mhm.
listen to you. They thought you were political. Like you just like, oh, whatever. I don't want to listen to that preachy stuff. But I think we're at a point now where knowledge is not only power, but it's also a form of currency. Like you see a lot of times, like people want to know more. They want to find out the truth or value in things. So for me, I've always been someone who liked learning and sharing what I learned. So it was kind of natural. It wasn't like I'm forcing this new content. I've always been like that. I just didn't know it would be something digestible. So when I started doing stuff where like I could sprinkle in um history and knowledge into like bars and like you said, think pieces, and people were eating it up, I'm like, why not do more if I have it in my heart, And I try never to like do something like just for like the attention or the clout. If it's like a current event thing, it's like so there's certain times I stay quiet because I don't. It's not in my heart. I never want to be that guy to like just always be jumping on current events. Oh, this is gonna give me some views. I don't care. I
Right.
do it just because I want to, because I feel like it's important.
That's cool. What's your of your recent pieces? Do you have a favorite right now that you're like really proud of?
There's a couple, but I would say that the most like if I had to only pick one, I would say like the Asian American history piece is like
Oh,
a really good one for myself, because I'm pretty proud of myself to be able to like condense so much
yes.
years of history into like 16, what is like 20 or 24 bars, and like condense it into 60 seconds to make sure it fit Instagram. So like I had more to say. I was just all right, I'm just gonna like cliff notes this and just like make sure this line's important. So I don't know, that's something I was not only proud of but was surprised by in terms of the reaction. It was like just so many people across like social media was like really like hungry for it, and and it
Mhm.
was just like people of all ages, and I was like, this is really powerful, because people, I mean, our history is not taught. So I
Yeah.
think I was always like really passionate about that. It's like, people are ignorant to us because they don't understand us, they don't know where we came from, it's like, so
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my favorite tracks. I mean, I have a lot of favorite tracks of yours, but when I was listening to that one, I was taking notes. I was like, okay, what? I didn't know about that. Okay, okay. And then like, I'm gonna go research all these things now. Um, I was telling someone earlier today, like, Patrick Strange. I feel like so ignorant right now because I didn't know about the Exclusion Act until I started watching Warriors.
Oh
Warrior.
yeah, great show. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys need to check it out. Check out American history. I mean, Asian American history for sure. That track is amazing. And check out Warriors if you want to know a little bit more about, what the track is talking about. So as you can see, I'm geeking out a little bit. I tend to do that, but there's a lot of fellow nerds who watch the podcast or listen to the podcast, and we love to hear anime and gaming references in your songs, like Uramushi Yusuke in "Don't Sleep on Me," Super Saiyan in "No Handouts." I definitely love when you take it up there. And Shang Tsung and "Blame It on Me." The Mortal Kombat fan in me was was just so happy. So, are you a bit of a nerd yourself, and how much have anime and gaming culture influenced your music?
Okay, this is kind of a weird thing, right? I actually did not really watch anime until like 2 years ago. Like it's because I mean, obviously I watched like Pokemon and like Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid, but it was like because of how people shamed like anime, like when I was in middle school and high school, I avoided it at all costs because like, oh, I don't want to be that kid. And it made me super angry when I grew up and it fucking became popular. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how this is something I wanted to watch for 10 years and you're gonna
Yeah.
tell me now it's cool? So I was like, fuck. And then so my friend, like all my friends, like were like, yo, you have to watch anime. You have to watch anime. And none of them are Asian, by the way. They're all black, and they're just like, bro, watch anime. And I was like,
Yeah.
fine. So I watched Hunter x Hunter, and I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm in. And then I was like, all right, what next? And then it was like My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, uh, some other ones, Trigun, Gungrave, just like a lot of different varying like from I guess decades of anime. So I'm definitely fully in. I'm not ashamed of it. I think it's super cool. I'm just mad that like it took that long for it to be cool, or just for me not being brave enough to be like, fuck this. I want to watch anime.
Yeah.
Um, and then with gaming, I've always been into gaming. I was a little bit insecure because I was always really bad at gaming, but then I got a PS4 maybe like also 2 years ago, and then I just got good at fighting games, so I kind of gained my confidence back. And then I just started playing Sleeping Dogs, which is kind of like it's similar to GTA in like the open world type of action, but it's like set in Hong Kong. It's like all Chinese characters,
Oh,
and
nice.
Oh, nice.
super yeah, and it's like an all star cast. So Will Young Lee plays the main guy. Lucy Liu is in it. Uh, Emma Stone plays a part. Um, Robin Show. Yeah, a lot of people. But anyway, so that also gave me the courage to say, hey, I want to try GTA and all these open world actions because I always thought my aim sucked at these like type of like when there's like shootouts and shit like that. So I was like, oh, but I beat the game, so now I'm gaining confidence to do more type of games. So yeah. I mean, long story short, like I think nerd culture is fucking dope, and I'm really happy that like uh we're at a point where people aren't being shamed for it.
Well, speaking of like shaming and the craziness of the world, back into about the world of entertainment. I mean, we know typically the world of entertainment is that doggy dog type of world, and it's often hard to find people you can trust and will help you grow authentically as an artist, whether they're fellow artists, friends, or family, or just people in the industry. It becomes hard to tell who's really looking out for your best interests. How have you found your personal, or I like to call it your board or your personal man-made family that that are really there for you and will help you elevate you to the next level?
Um, I think it's kind of like a find your tribe type of thing, right? Because I think through a lot of trial and error of like cutting off a lot of people that wasn't for me, I learned what I wanted in terms of like who I want on my team and who I want to be a part of my life. Um, I think it's really just experience and learning the lessons of who I don't want. So I'm pretty quick at seeing like red flags. And yeah, I think having the wrong people can be dangerous sometimes, especially as you grow. Like you don't want to keep those kind of people, in your circle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it's so important to have that support system,
Yes.
especially when you're stepping out on your own.
Right.
So let's touch back a little bit on the Asian American history part. A lot of people are not aware, as we mentioned briefly, of Asian American like Asians in American history, like not just like back to Asia,
Hmm.
but the contributions to this country. What events or efforts are you most proud of throughout history? It could be current or in history.
So we're talking about like just in general with Asian American history, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, this is gonna be selfish just because I'm part of the entertainment industry, but I'm really proud that the first sex symbol in American history was Asian. That's like so dope. And if you think about like the context of like Asian men being emasculated for so long in this country, and the fact that there was an Asian dude that had like all these white women like, oh my god, this like throwing themselves over him. It's like how powerful was that statement? This was like I don't remember. It was like the silent movie era. That's like it says a lot. And then it's like just to know that they got threatened so much that they would throw in all these like caricatures of what Asian men are supposed to be like. It's like, we were a threat, you know. And I mean, we have a lot of trauma in our history too. So that's like, I mean, those aren't favorite moments. I just know about them. But
Yeah.
uh yeah, I think that's a proud moment. And I think like the guy who was a Chinese dude, he like was the one who like made birthright citizenship like possible. Juan Carlar fuck, I'm butchering his name, but I should have just said birthright citizenship. But he contributed a lot because without him, it's like we wouldn't have that. Like, well, if you're born into this country as an immigrant, then you can become a naturalized citizen. You know what I mean? So I think that's like super important, not only to Asian people, but just people in general, that
Hmm.
aren't native to America.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, with I know you're trying to really evolve the entertainment industry with your actions and things that you do. What kind of legacy do you intend to leave with your music?
Hmm. I just want a few. I mean, honestly, like selfishly, I just want a few like platinum records. I don't know. Like, I want to be able to have the accolades in terms of chart success, but I also want to be able to have music where like years from now, where I'm like a grandpa, people will be still talking about it. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of legacy I definitely want. I just don't want to be that dude where it's like, oh man, he could have made so much money, but he missed a shot. I just that's what I'm hoping not to be. So it's like
Yeah.
I want to be able to have that commercial success so that I can show these people like, yo, he was both like really influential and he made a lot of money. So now I want to be
Yeah.
him too, as opposed to being like, oh man, he could have had it. Nah, like that's what I'm fighting to not be like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, for your music career, and like as a writer and a creator, um, who has had the most influence on your music?
I think Dana can probably answer this one, but Eminem for sure. He's literally the reason I started rapping. And it's a really weird thing because I've talked to other Asian rappers about this, but it's like I don't know what it is about Eminem, but like a lot of Asian rappers like will be like, yeah, Eminem was like the reason I got into hip hop.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that's how I got into it. I saw Eminem on MTV when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, this is so cool because it was like he looked like he could be a part of NSYNC, but he's not. He's talking shit about them. You know what I mean? Like he was like a reject of a boy band. I'm just like, but he's like rapping. I'm like, it's so cool. It's like so rebellious. And then from there, I started looking into like you know people before him and of his era, like Nas, Jay Z, like Pac, Biggie, like even and then the '80s, like I was like super hooked on like Rakim and like Coogee Rap, Big Daddy Kane. Like I've always been like a language nerd, so just like
Mhm.
rappers that were really like dope with like wordplay, punchlines, and like just
Yeah.
multisyllabic patterns. All the nerdy stuff, I'm like super into that. So like if you listen to like my lyrics, I'm very particular with how I write. Every rhyme is like a pattern. I have to make sure that like the phrases fit perfectly, like the syllable counts. I'm like so methodical with that. And then with every rhyme scheme, it has to be a perfect match. Like it has to be like 4 or 5 combinations, like a fucking Mortal Kombat combo. Like I'm so weird about it. Like I can't like I can never rhyme like cat with hat. Like it would have to be something before that to make it make sense where it's like now it's a pattern. Now you can see how I'm because like the way I rhyme is like the cadence rides it. You know what I mean? And because that's how like Rakim would do it and how like, Eminem would do it. It's like when you have certain syllable counts, it makes the rhythm like go with it. So it's just really technical stuff. I'm super into that stuff. But then on the musical side, like, I listen to like Michael Jackson and like Trey Songz, who's like my favorite singer, Chris Brown, people like them. And so I think that's where I was able to kind of build like a female audience, because that's like the music that I learned from. Like these guys who were like just lady killers. I was like, all right, so I got to make sure I have that in my element. And I was able to kind of combine that. I think I'm doing a better job now than ever in terms of being able to uh, not only do hip hop but like R&B and pop, and fuse it into my own style, as opposed to like trying to do like both but like in totally different ways. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I really enjoy your style. Like when you're breaking it down, I'm just like, yes, he does this so well. And I think that's, on top of it just being like the beats and everything, it's the lyrics. It's like for the same reasons that I like Pac. It's like he's like a like rebellious but an intellect. Like it's not like he's just spitting bullshit, right? Like he's speaking truth and he's dropping facts and he's like in your face with it. And that's one of the things that I really love about your music.
Thank you. Yeah, and about Pac, it's like even when he's talking about like killing you, his lyrics are like poetic. Like he had a line where he said, "Now my adversaries have been reduced to tears." Like it's just like that line alone always stuck with me, because it's like basically saying my enemies are now just a tear tattoo to represent the fact that I murdered you. I'm like, it's so fucking poetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love language, man. So I think that's a big reason why I've always been in love with hip hop for so long.
Now, for myself, I end up connecting and finding you because of your acting side. And it ended up being that I saw while I was on Facebook one of his skits, and I was just like, oh, this is really funny. But and then as I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow him because I honestly thought you were more on the acting comedy side. And then next thing, it was like a month or two later, it was like, hey, check out my, new song, Don't Sleep. And I'm like, what? He
Yeah,
sings? And then it was just like, okay. But just seeing your acting side, you have the element that connects everybody on social media, but you also have your acting that you have in TV shows and things like that. What has been your favorite acting moment or favorite show that you got to play on?
Uh, I think like my favorite show for now would probably be like when I was on Star, which was a show on Fox, and it was more so the experience than the actual screen time, because like my part was like cut like to a very minimal amount, but I was still on it, so it was like, all right, I got my check, it's whatever. But I think it was one of those moments like that one, and also on Being Mary Jane, where I kind of fell in love with acting, like the actual Hollywood side of it, because it was like I just saw how much it took for like a TV show to be produced. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have the cinematographer, the director, the lighting, the makeup artist. So it's like all these people, and then you have like the people on standby. You have all this working together for one project. And I was like, man, I feel so alone doing music, because it's just really just me, And it's like there's people on my team, I'm the one taking the brunt of it. If I do something fucked up, that's me. If a movie fucks up, that's on the director. I'm as an actor, I'm good. I'll just distance myself and do the next project. Not to say I want to not have accountability, but it's just that idea of man, teamwork, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this is so different from music. I love being able to be part of a team and not only be the one guy that's responsible for everyone else's check. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And then so in order for me to kind of like ease my fans into like the acting side, I was like, all right, let me do something like Key and Peele would do, because I'm really big on them and Chappelle Show, just goofy skits that kind of have a message. And it kind of worked. Like the first skit I did, it went like semi-viral, and then like an influencer shared it on his page, and it hit like 100,000 views in like I think like a couple hours. And I was like, oh, cool. And so more people found me from there that didn't know I did music, and I just kept pumping out more and more skits pre-COVID, and I just loved it. I just loved being able to direct and edit my own skits, and telling like my other like actor homies like how to what to do, what to say, and then asking them like how should I say this. And then it was just fun. And I think it's a kind of like juvenile type of fun that I don't get in music, because I always tell people music is like the thorn on my side. I can never get rid of it, even as much as I want to. But it's like I have a very toxic relationship with music. That's like the bitter ex that I can never let go, because it's like it's the reason why I have depression, but it's also how I get out of depression when I write. So it's cathartic, but it's also triggering. You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
my problems come from music. So, but with acting, it's like it's just I'm sure I'm gonna experience hardships in acting too, because I've received terribly racist scripts as well. But I think the idea of being a part of a team and meeting the cast and becoming like a family, that's something I just love, because in music, like you said, like Dana said earlier, it's so dog eat dog.
Yeah.
I take that back. And acting is dog eat dog too, but you guys get what I'm saying. It's just a different type of vibe.
It's just the entertainment industry as a whole.
Yeah, it's just everyone's out for each other. Yeah, yeah. So just forget everything I just said.
So we have a question from someone who's watching, from Angela Audley. When you write lyrics for a song, do you intend for people to interpret them a certain way, or do you think it's interesting when people apply the words to their own experiences?
I would say both. If it's a personal song for me, I would like for people to get the message and kind of vibe with what I'm talking about. But if it's something more like universal, I like to them for them to like interpret it the way they want to. You know what I mean? So there's like different types of modes I get into. There's like times where I'm really trying to tell a story of my life, but then there's also just songs where I'm just trying to go off of a concept or a theme. And those are the ones where I'm like, you can fill in the blanks yourself. I'm just giving you the template.
Mm.
And I think that's part of the, I guess, like the process of writing and figuring out what direction I want to go. I also kind of like fan interpretation too. There's like fan theories, and I'm just like, I didn't write that, but that's kind of cool. That I'm like, yep, that's what I meant. So I enjoy those as well. You know.
Oh, that's so awesome. So one of your tracks, Dojo, is one that you did with Jason Chu. How did you and Jason meet?
Oh man, we've been friends for so long. We've been friends since like MySpace. You know, like, I
Oh,
was
that's long.
yeah, like I was like a freshman in high school or something, and he was like in college, and just I was just trying to add as many Asian rapper friends as I could on MySpace. You know, um, and so we never did anything back then because obviously like I was young and stuff. But eventually, I think he hit me up. I was like, hey man, I've been noticing that you've been hitting like a pretty good stride with your music. I see what you're doing. He's like, hey, we should do something like just a song together because it's been so long that we've known each other for so long. And this was like I think 2016 or 2017, and so we did a song together called Yellow Diddy, and like that like blew up on Facebook. That has like almost 1 million views, or I think yeah, like 900,000 views or something like that. And so we're like, oh cool, we have like a cool little formula going on. And then so we did another song to follow it up for the next year, which was Dojo, and then that did really well on Spotify. Like that hit
Mm.
like 300,000 streams, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" And the reason I say "What the fuck" is because it goes against everything I was taught by these industry professionals. Because like if you talk to like an exec, they'll pretty much be like, "Hey, don't make music that's too lyrical. Don't dumb down your lyrics. People don't understand what you're saying when you do this lyrical miracle stuff. Don't put too much metaphors. Just hey, simplify this line. I don't think they know what it means." And so Doja was like just straight boom bap, straight like just every there's barely a hook. It's just back and forth rapping. Very like, combative and aggressive. And it was just like, I don't know, it was everything that shouldn't have worked.
Mm.
And then so when it was received well, I think me and Jason were pretty happy about that. It's like one, we were able to kind of like add an Asian element to it with the instrumental. It was like very Wu-Tang esque. And then the
Yes.
bars were just like, just not commercial at all. So it was refreshing for me because sometimes I get sick of writing pop songs. Like, fuck this shit. I don't even want to write a pop song, but I have to because I want to make sure that like can keep an audience and shit. I'm like, I don't even fucking listen to pop, Like, so I'm like, fuck. But then when I do a song that's like more hip hop, it's fun for me because like this is what I grew up loving and stuff. So yeah, hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's how we linked up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I love that
I
you
shouldn't have
brought
admitted
that
hip
up.
hop music to people that are they're just finding out about me. But yeah.
But it's great that you brought that up because that was also something I wanted to kind of talk about because you've had some great collaborations. Jason is one of them. You've also worked with Chow Mein and several others. Rocky, you did,
Yeah, yeah.
and everything. And with all of them, you had different evolutions of sounds with working with them. And you really see how you had this, like you mesh together. And it's really interesting seeing how that all plays out. Because, I mean, Chow Mein has his sound, you have your sound, and also Jason has his sound. And then when you're working with them, and I mentioned earlier to Moana, I was like, "Hey, have you checked out their vote song?" She's like, "No," and I'm like, Here's the link. Watch it." And it's just all three of you together and having your own flavor of
Mm.
your flows and everything, but at the same time being bringing forth what's going on, which encouraging everybody to vote, especially in the API community, which between the API and the Black community, we tended not to really vote that much. And it was like, okay, this is a time we need to vote, we need to make our voices heard. And it was just so powerful to kind of hear that.
Mm.
And I always wondered, okay, what made always make you say, yeah, this is a collaboration that's going to work? Or do you see certain people like, thank you very
Mm.
much for the asking, but no, kind of thing. So what makes it
uh,
like, okay, I know we can vibe. I don't know if it's like with you and Jason was history, but I know you probably have a lot of people hitting you up and saying, "Hey, I would love to work with you. I
mhm.
love for you to do this on my song." And it's like, how do you filter through all that?
Yeah, I think it's a well, I think history is a big part because me and Rocky have been friends since like 2016. Like before we even talked about doing music together, like I supported him at a showcase he was at when he came to Atlanta. You know, I made sure that him and his team had a good time in my city. So it was a little different. You know, and when he said let's do a song, it's like, oh yeah, well, you're my boy. Same thing with Chow Mein. It's like, I was, I met him through a mutual friend of mine, Jonathan, in the Bay, and then, became friends. We're just like, oh yeah, like, before we even did a song together, we're just like, what are you about? But I also think it's like twofold. It's like one, if we have history, and two, if this works marketing wise. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, hey, this can benefit both of us. If not, then I have to charge you because I this all comes down to the bottom line. It's like this, like if I'm working with this person and we have agreed on an undisclosed price, we know that this could be good marketing wise and money for us. But if I don't know you on that level, or if you're like you don't have the kind of traction I can gain without it, like without me being on your song, like I can't benefit from that. And it's like this is the capitalistic system. I can't work with everyone because when I try to do freebies, it's like it doesn't. All it does is drain me. So I can't give that much to myself. And the more I grow, I have to protect my energy and now and
Yeah.
like my artistry.
Yes.
And some people get mad, and I'm just like, well, all right, like you can find someone else that can do it for free, but I can't. Like
Yeah.
is your love gonna pay the bill? Like oh, you're
Right.
so dope, let's collab. Okay, pay me if you love my music so much.
No, that's a great point. For anyone, entrepreneurs in any type of field or industry, like protecting your time, it becomes so important. I mean, I have been learning that over the past couple of years. Before I used to give myself out freely. Um, and I still do. I still love my community. I still love the things that I do. I still love helping people, but it just has to be something that you're passionate about too, right? So finding
Yeah,
those
yeah.
people who are like-minded, who are along the same path, who have the same drive, the same hustle, because if they have it just like you, like they're going to be just as successful as you. So
Right.
Yeah.
um so shout out to Dana for being my hustle chick on this podcast, and for for introducing me to you, because yeah, it's just been amazing. This whole week I've been listening to your CDs in my car. I'm like,
Oh, thank you.
okay. Oh
Well,
yeah.
I also wanted to bring up, I do know that, we were talking about earlier about you really putting your voice out there, and you've been doing a lot more panels, interviews, and
Mhm.
stuff to really bring those things out,
Yeah.
from being on panels with Dragon Con to doing various with various organizations like NAPA and other nonprofits, especially during the pandemic, to bring attention to the communities affected by COVID. Um, How has that been for you? And, is that something you want to dive in more into, or is that just, something for now in the in between?
Oh, I definitely want to dive into it more. So like, um, I didn't realize how much of a passion I had for public speaking, but like, I really like public discourse, being able to talk about certain topics and themes with like other esteemed individuals, and like being able to like learn, not only learn from them, but for people to learn from me as well. And
Mm,
so once the pandemic is over, I definitely want to continue that path and do it at like other conventions and like festivals, whoever would have me, or colleges or whatever. You know what I mean? Because I think
Yes.
these kind of conversations are important, especially between like marginalized like groups. Is like, dude, who else is gonna give this platform to us? We have to either build our
yeah,
own, or it's like let's coalition and mobilize and build amongst each other, and like lift each other up. You know what I mean? So I'm really
Yes.
passionate about that. Like, because even when you break down like the idea of like needing Asian American representation, but it's like it's so much deeper than just having like an Asian face. It's about having Asian writers, Asian like directors, and people that like a whole team behind you that know
mhm,
your vision. Because like we saw how Mulan did not do the way it should have. It's like, yeah, there's a total Asian cast, but guess what? It's non-Asian people directing it, and there's a
yeah,
fucking hawk. It's a what? Just a witch that turns into a hawk that fucking dies from an arrow, even though she's all powerful. Like shit that doesn't make sense, but would have been eliminated if there was an Asian writer. You know what I mean? So there's an importance in I think community building, and a lot of conversations I feel that can be productive if it's had in a like a public forum.
Yes.
yeah. Dana sent me a link to like a panel that you guys did for Dragon Con. Um, and it was one where you were with Jason and a couple other folks, but I learned so much from that panel as well. Um,
It was the API panel that we
yeah,
had. Yes. That had with Lee Shorten and also Havana. She was over it, and several others. So yeah, it was a great API panel of entertainers and people that's basically API in the industry.
absolutely. Yeah, so I have a friend, Patrick Strange. I'm not sure if you know him, but he does he runs Nerds of Color, and
Oh yeah, yeah. Wait, I think I know who that is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who that is. He's a Filipino or Pacific
yep.
Islander, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, have you been on his stream yet?
Nah, not yet.
Oh, he'd probably be a good person for you to talk to because we here at AwesomeCon is the DC convention. When things are normal, but
Yeah.
he hosts an Asian American Pacific Islander panel every year.
Oh, that's perfect.
So, yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, you can come back to Maryland, you know.
No, yeah, that's what I
Exactly.
was thinking too. I think that'd be a super great opportunity. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I'll make sure to connect you guys too.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Um, so kind of going off the Mulan thread, and having inauthentic writers, right? Like, what are some of the Asian stereotypes that you find most problematic?
Hmm. Oh man, like so many. I don't know where to start. Like we gotta narrow it down to like categories. I'm trying to think. Uh, Shit. You gotta give me a lifeline, because like in my head I see all these different like disparaging. Okay, so I think one is like the idea that Asian people are white passing will always infuriate me, because it's like especially when other Asian people say it, it always bothers me, because it's like, dude, as fair skinned as you may be, you walk down that street, you're more likely to be called a chink than a white guy.
Mhm.
So I'm like, why are you like subjugating yourself to this? You're embarrassing yourself. It's like, I don't know, that like the idea of like, like I think the thing that bothers me the most about, I don't even want to say stereotypes, but I would say like misconceptions, because I don't know if that's a stereotype, but is how the model minority myth has affected our people, like just
Yeah.
how people have aligned themselves with like this idea of like, oh, yeah, I'm proximity to whiteness. I hate that term. I'm like, dude, when I was in a predominantly white place, they fucking hated me. They said, go back to my country. They would not say that to fucking Scott from Scotland. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm white, if I'm a white adjacent, I would not be, called a chink and all that stuff. You think you're gonna call like Scott from Scotland a honky? Like, it's like there's a level of like respect be give to actual white adjacent people. You know what I mean? Like the Irish and the Italians, they're not gonna give that to Asian people. So I hate this narrative that's going on. And like a lot of times, like when I call this out, a lot of Asian people get mad at me. You know, so I don't know. It's gonna take more than just me saying it. It's gotta be people waking up and be like, yeah, this fucked up. It's like we're our own people. Like let's stop thinking that we need to fit into a mode of this black and white narrative. You know, we are our own. Like in terms of like who we are, let's stop comparing ourselves to other groups. Let's own up who we are.
I love it. The passion, you just hit me right there. Because I'd be thinking that too, you know, like kind of going back to what we talked about at the beginning is like, okay, I'm this, you know, Native Hawaiian girl, a Filipino, you know, I'm a mix of cultures, right? Like that's what I'm originally from Hawaii. That's what it is. Like I have a respect for all people. Like I never really thought about the, oh, they're black, they're white, they're, you know, they're this, they're that. Like these are just people that are in my community, people that I love, people that I, you know, have support me and made me, you know, the young woman that I am today. So like when people try to put anyone in a specific box, like that drives me nuts. Like people are multidimensional. They can be a whole lot of different things. We don't all have to be the same thing because that would make us vanilla and boring, you know, like, so, yeah, I really like that message. We heard that with David tonight too. So yeah, definitely.
Or as I like to say, my grandma always said when people say, well, vanilla, it's like, well, vanilla is actually black. If you actually look at what vanilla beans look like, they're black.
Right.
They're not white, they're black. So stop trying to make something, you know, everything is, they want to make it very Eurocentric. Everything's Eurocentric. And it's like, this has been started back in the slave day colonizing days, that this mindset has been established and it keeps getting passed on.
Yeah, and it just pits people against each other. Like, you know, I think like I did a video that kind of went viral. Like it was about how I was like, Asian people, stop fucking thinking you're white adjacent. Like, and it was about it was in Washington State, surprise, surprise. Like when they put Asian people, the Asian students lumped in with white students, basically because of academic success and whatever. And like, yeah, it's just like shit like that. It's like, can't you see that they're doing this because they're stripping away who you are, your heritage? You know what I mean? Like it has nothing to do with like assimilating. Has everything to do with erasure, you know? So
yeah.
Even when I watch like TV shows, like I remember I watched One Tree Hill when I was a kid, right? And there was a Filipino dude that was like hooking up with Sophia Bush, her character.
Oh
They made him Hispanic. And I'm like, what the fuck? The one time an Asian dude is like the love interest, they just say like he's from fucking Mexico? Are you fucking kidding me? So it's like shit like that. That's like, it's so intentional. It's like, oh yeah, you can be sexy as a Hispanic. You know, it's like, what? So I don't know, like shit like that. Not to say that, you know, like maybe he does have, you know, Latino blood, but it was just frustrating to see that shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's too often, like, especially, and I know it was one time that it was a post of yours and I made a comment on it and somebody was like, oh, that's so cute. You're Asian obsessed. And I'm like, and Al, you actually spoke before I spoke on it. And it's just like, dude, you don't even know what my background is, who I am. And you're just going to assume just because I'm a darker complexion, my hair isn't, you know, 100% straight. It's like, you know, I can't line with Asian issues or I can't line with, you know, Native American issues. It's like, unless I look like you, exactly what Hollywood and media makes it looks like, I either have an obsession or someone that has a fetish for it. It's like, dude, no. It's like, if you, it was like, if you actually look at Asia, you know, you're discounting the, you know, the Philippines, you're discounting India, you know, all these people are, you know, a darker complexion. And there's plenty of Japanese and Chinese people that are of darker complexion. But it's just like, you know, like you said, seeing people that are of the Asian culture, or most of the time it's people outside of it. And it's just like, they're so quick to police other people. And it's just like, no, no, no. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's just people revealing their own ignorance, you know, like people will tell you so much just by what they say.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Now, I also wanted to bring out, I know your latest song, The Chip. You brought up,
Yes.
I love the fact that you brought up about, people coming to you about not getting out there because, and you're trying
Yeah.
to stay safe because of COVID. And then, of course, my favorite part of it is like, you are Jet Li with a pen
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
and everything. But it's like you cover that, but then you also cover it's like, this chip of yours is not only a weakness, but a strength to you.
For sure.
Can you go into about like what inspired you to write that song and how it really resonated with the current times?
Uh, I'll try to. I think there's like three questions I need to answer, so I'll try to like hit every bullet point. But I think with like the idea of the chip, like just with like you said, it's a strength and a weakness. And I've always had friends tell me like, "Yo, Alan, you need to get rid of that chip on your shoulder. Get rid of the chip." And I'm just like, "Why? Why would I do that?" It's like you don't understand. Like I'm like the fucking Hulk. Like I'm always angry, but I know how to control my anger. I know how to use it for good. Like you don't have to police my anger. I'm like, bro, like I'm good. I'm always, passionate about shit. But like I don't have to get rid of this hunger for change and for wanting to make progress and shit. So that hook was basically like saying like no matter how famous or popular I get, I'm always gonna have that hunger for what I want to do, for my ambitions.
Mm.
And then to the second point about people like shaming me for like not going outside and doing like public stuff. Um so this is a really true story, and it's like it's funny because I didn't know how to write that bar, so for a long time it was just fuck you, and I was like I had to fill in around that fuck you. I was like, all right, how do I make this like poetic? But it was like two instances of like, or maybe three, of like people in Atlanta that like do film and stuff, right? And they would be like, "Hey, I got this new film equipment." I'm like, "Okay, great. I'll see you when it's safe." And they're just like shaming me about it. They're like, "This is the new normal. You need to just grow up, and get used to it. This is how it's always gonna be." What? Have you fucking seen in history that there has been multiple pandemics and we have gone past? It's like, bro, I'm not gonna entertain stupidity. So like when it happens over and over and over, I'm seeing a pattern of like this cognitive dissonance of people not understanding science of like how like these kind of like diseases happen. This is not like, oh yeah, it's always gonna be like that. That doesn't make any fucking sense. If that's the case, then we're all gonna die. It doesn't make sense. It just does not. So I had to write that bar. It was like you're playing basically like you're playing Russian roulette with a loaded clip, because it's like if you're fucking around and like without a mask and just doing shit, you're going to catch it. Like it's just
Hmm.
so. But don't drag me into that. So that's what
Yeah.
I was saying. And so the reason I started talking about current events in that song is I released it in December purposely so that I can do like kind of like a wrap up. It's like this is what has happened this year, and this is why I'm pissed off. you know, Shiv. And then it worked out. I think it was received pretty well, and I was able to make a cool meme out of it. You know what I mean? When I made fun of myself, I was happy about that.
That was hilarious. Yes,
Yeah,
you did that one
yeah,
because
So
you took your rap game to like you really took it up a notch with doing that particular song that you just let it fly
oh, thank
with
you.
that one.
yeah, I mean, it's the authenticity is always what makes something powerful. Is you're just being raw and speaking your truth. I mean, that's what it is, like it or not. Like I think you mentioned it earlier in the podcast where you talked about if those folks don't like it, then they just weren't work for me.
Right.
Mhm.
It's not the people I'm trying to reach. So
Yeah, like I'm sure I've lost followers throughout the pandemic, but that's like that's everyone, because like you said, everyone's true colors have been showing this year or this past year, and
Yeah.
it is what it is.
absolutely. All righty. Well, Dana, do you have any more questions?
Other than that, I just wanted to ask, Alan, what upcoming things can we expect from
Oh yeah.
you in 2021? I mean, this past 7 days probably gave you some new stuff to write about and some songs. But what future projects or songs or albums or anything that we can be looking forward to, or and everything to continue growing with you?
I'm definitely working on like a few projects. Really hoping that this vaccine shit works out so that we can start like doing gatherings and conventions and live shows so I can actually be able to promote myself outside of the internet. But as far as like the more like short term, I'm definitely doing like planning to drop more singles. Like I have a song that I'm working on with my friend Wise, who I did the Black and Asian Unity piece with. Um, and I have some songs I'm doing with like other people like Chow Mein, Jason,
Nice.
and some solo stuff as well. Um, yeah, and I'm just really hoping that like 2021 will be the year that we just finally can be safe outside. If if you choose to take the vaccine. So
Exactly.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
All right.
And let everybody know how they can connect with you, both on social media and and on musical platforms.
yeah, so on social media, you guys can check me out at Alanz Music. That's ALANZ Music. And all my music is on all platforms. So Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Tidal, Amazon, uh, other esoteric ones that I don't really know about. But yeah, you can find that at Alan Z, which is ALAN, and then last initial Z.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for your time. We really appreciate you having here on the episode. Thanks to all of our listeners and viewers who tuned in for tonight's show. Be sure you guys check out Alan's music. I promise you will not be disappointed. And also definitely check out his TikTok. That channel is hilarious, and I really enjoy
thank
it.
you.
So shout out to you. Thank you for all you do to represent and be a role model and a symbol for the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. We appreciate you, and we wish you all the best in 2021 and in the future. And if the Moananui podcast can help you along your journey, please feel free to reach out. We're always looking forward to helping others, elevate their platform and grow together.
Thank you.
So with that said, take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Be safe, stay healthy, and keep jamming. Talk to you guys soon.